My army of the weakest creature in Ark, the Dodo, beat the Dinopithecus King. The obvious answer is a big fat no. Unless I boost all my stats of my tamed creatures way up so they're basically walking murder machines. But there wouldn't be any challenge in that, so I nerfed my character into the ground. So if I even tried to level him up, the amount I would gain from that level would be insignificant. Okay, we have a new challenge on a new map. Well, at least new to me. The first order of business was making a club, so I could knock out a Dodo as fast as I could to have a little bit of protection. But the Dodo ate the hits of the club and it broke.
Drink that not on? Oh, he's gonna hit too.
He looks stupid.
So I needed a new plan. My next idea was to try to find some sand so I could make a boomerang. But the only thing I found was the most perfect supply drop. This thing had everything I was looking for. It had a bow, so I wouldn't even have to make one, and more than enough trank darts to take down this Dodo. With my newfound loot, I found the lowest Dodo and started hitting him with the trank darts. I used everything I had and this guy wasn't budging. So I checked Dodo decks and it was saying I needed to hit him with 614 trank darts to knock him out. And there's just no way I could get that many, so I had to change my setting. With my new settings, my club was still doing 0 damage, but I could knock him out if I made a couple of clubs. I put him to sleep and when he woke up, I named him Mr. Man, even though he wasn't a man at all.
Serious, my brother.
I tested his strength out and he easily one-shot the Listro. The next thing I would need is to find a male Dodo so I could breed them. So I got some stone and made a mortar and pestle and started to make the narcotics I would need. I found the perfect Dodo I was looking for, a high level and he was a male. So I took the first shot and my Dodo killed him. But I found another one and made sure Mr. Man was on passive. Without Mr. Man sabotaging me, I got her knocked out pretty easily. But it wasn't the male I was looking for. So I found one and you know the rest. I took the newly tamed Dodos to a safe place and lit some candles so they could give me an egg. To give them some privacy, I took a spare Dodo and put her on aggressive. And she went to work, killing everything that she laid her eyes on.
Was lost. Was lost. So I took a different path.
After I gathered the hide from the dinos, I went back to my Dodos. I placed the egg next to the campfire and let it hatch. And once it did hatch, I imprinted it.
Another Neanderthal.
I would need to make a raft so I could have a place to call home. So I gathered the wood and everything else I would need to craft it.
About some pussy ass niggas and they jumped me, nigga. Nobody gave me the faith of a one-on-one nigga. No.
I went down to the river and placed it and started loading up all my Dodos. Once we were all on board, we headed to the first artifact. I would need 4 artifacts in total and a whole assortment of random drops from different dinos. Then I could spawn the boss. Before I went to get the artifact, I wanted to upgrade my raft. I started by lowering the foundation, then placed all the essential things I would need for my journey. I brought 4 Dodos with me to the cave, just in case things went south. When we finally got to the entrance, I gave them a prep talk and went in. The cave was pretty empty, there wasn't much in sight. The only thing I saw was a scorpion and we took care of him pretty easily, but it ended up knocking me out. When I finally got to the next room, it was filled with bats. And I thought I was just invincible, so I ran in there. The only problem was my Dodos were having a hard time hitting the dinos that are fast and could fly. So I brought out my 2012 self and trained these bats like they were zombies. My Dodos eventually killed them all and I went deeper into the cave. I went to the final room and it was where the artifact was. The artifact of the hunter, which is one of the 4 that I would need to spawn the boss. Once me and my minions got back to the raft, we were off to the next spot. I was headed down to the lower part of the map. The reason I was going here is because I needed to be in the swamp. Because the swamp had one special dino I needed to tame. But before I went to the swamp, I made narcotics and a crossbow, so I could take him down easier. After some searching, I spotted one. He was getting attacked by everything, so I tried to help, but my Dodos ended up killing him. The reason why I wanted this dino is because of his special ability. He can take air from outside and bring it underwater, and then when I'm underwater, I could take it from him. So he is basically a scuba tank without the hassle of making a fabricator and then a scuba tank. In reality, I don't know which one's easier to do, because I died quite a bit in the swamp trying to find one of these guys. But once I did find one, I trapped her in my bola and started shooting trank darts at her. When the bola finally broke, she ran to the water. She could have zipped across the water and got away, but thankfully she just went in circles and I was able to get the last shot off. I guarded her with my life until she finally woke up. I wanted to give her the name Scuba Steve, but that was a dude's name and she was a girl. So I made the name a little more girly. I took my gang back to my raft, then we were off to our next location. This spot was in the middle of the ocean, and what I was looking for was a sunken ship, because at the lower level of the ship would be another artifact I would need. When I was about to make my way into the ship, a massive megalodon just came and erased me from existence. So without hesitation, I spawned back on the raft and jumped into the water and started descending. I could see my body, but it was so far away. I made it pretty close, but I started to drown. I was spamming my follow whistle, hoping Slay Steve would come and rescue me. And rescue me she did. She came right in time and I was able to get more oxygen. With more oxygen, I got my gear and went into the ship. I broke the boards that were covering the artifact and went down to the lower level and got the artifact of the Devour. I had half the artifacts that I would need to spawn the boss. I needed flak armor so I could maybe stand a chance fighting the boss. And off in the distance I could see some metal nodes. So I gathered all my dodos to help me carry the metal and went to go mine it. When I got back, I put it in the furnace and I had more than enough to make a full set of flak. I then was off to get all the dino drops that I would need for the final boss fight. After spending 3 real days getting all the drops, I was finally done. Finding the dinos wasn't even the hard part, it was the raft. Getting around the map with that is so slow compared to a flyer. But anyway, I headed to get the final 2 artifacts that I would need, which luckily were in the same cave. It was pretty difficult to get to the entrance because of all the big mountains surrounding it, and without a flyer I had to find a path that I could get up. But in the end we made it there, and the entrance was a hole in the middle of the swamp. So I dove into the depths and let my team protect me from the piranhas. I could see an air pocket and that is exactly where I needed to go. But when I got there it was heavily guarded by an assortment of different bugs. I let all my dinos do their thing, so I wouldn't get hit by any of the arthroporas, because if I would get hit by one of those suckers, my armor would eventually break. But they got everything cleaned up and I was able to go deeper into the cave. When we ran into the next room, the only dino that was in there was arthroporas, so I would need to be extra careful not to get hit. I couldn't get the attack command to work, and the arthroporas rushed me, and I took a hit. My dodos then sprung into action to kill the rest of them, but one happened to still be up there with me, while all my dodos were stuck in the water. So I juked him and ran into the water so my dodos could take care of him. With the room being cleared, I was able to move on, and made it to the entrance of the labyrinth. This was the most dangerous place on the map. There was booby traps everywhere you looked, dinos trying to kill you, and it's a maze, so it's very easy to lose your way in here. After getting lost a few times and hitting all the traps, I made my way to the first artifact. But it was behind a wall, so I pressed the button and raised the wall. And with that, we had the artifact of the Devious. This meant we only needed one more and then we could summon the boss. The next artifact was a bit deeper in the labyrinth, and I had my sights on it. The only thing between me and the artifact was a room full of traps and a gate, so I carefully made my way to the button and opened up the gate. I got the artifact of the Massive, which was the last one I needed, and with that I now had everything I would need to spawn the boss. The only thing that is left now is to make my way out of this cave. I was finally out of that hellhole. Now I just needed to get back to my raft. Back at the raft, I removed all the leeches from my tames and loaded them up and headed as close as I could get to the green obelisk. When I got there, I grabbed everything I would need and got all my dodos to follow me. And with that, we started our march to the obelisk. When we finally got there, I let my dodos get to full health and then I started the countdown. I looked at all my dodos before we got teleported, just in case this was the last time I would see them.
Stop!
Before I fight this guy, let me say this. If you're enjoying this video so far, then go ahead and drop a like, because it would help my channel so much, and we are so close to 25 subs. Anyways, here's what y'all been waiting for. Then, we were in the arena. It looked pretty cool, but I was confused because the boss was nowhere to be seen. So I walked into the entrance, and there he was, sleeping on the cliff. So I took out my crossbow and shot my only arrow, and I missed. So I decided I was going to get a little closer to him until he wakes up. Oh, and he woke up alright, and he was pissed. He basically dunked on my ass and one-tapped me, and I was dead. So now that I was his bitch and he took everything from me, I had to get back, so I made some tools and hatched all the eggs I've been saving just in case something like this does happen. And 6 of them died right there on the spot. I was left with 4 dodos, so I leveled them up as much as I could. Last time I fought the boss, I made 2 mistakes that would cost me my life. The first one was only bringing 1 arrow. And the second was I was too slow to run away from him. So I made some arrows and tamed a moss chop. With the moss chop, I would be able to run away faster and take more than 1 hit. When we finally got back to the green obelisk, I let everyone heal and started the countdown again. We were back in there and I was more prepared. The first thing I did was lead my dodos to a safe spot. And then I went back and woke up the monkey with one of my arrows. I ran so fast that the monkey didn't even follow me into my trap. So my new plan was to just bring the dodos to him. The boss was closing the distance in on me, so I whistled them to attack him. My dodos were doing some damage against him, and shortly after, the monkey was taken down. I was hyped because I just took down a monkey with only dodos, but I had to use 4 of them to take him down, so I was wondering, could I do it with 1? So, for shits and gigs, I got rid of my other dodos and chose the best one, and I respawned the boss. When I was in there, I did the usual. I placed my dodo in the cave, woke up the boss, and ran away. But when my dodo got into the 1v1, it was not looking good for him. The boss kept knocking him back, so my dodo couldn't even land a hit, and he died. So it was up to my moss chop to get us out of here. I put all his levels into damage and took the boss out easily. Well, I wasn't able to beat the boss with 1 dodo, but I was able to beat him with only 4. So that's a win in my book. And of course, this challenge wasn't too serious, because obviously you can't beat the boss with only dodos, unless you spawn like a million, and my Xbox cannot handle that. But if you are looking for a more serious challenge, here's a video you could watch where I spent 100 days on the island, trying to beat all the bosses and building a huge base.